guys, it is Tiamara. Thank you so much for coming back to my channel. Welcome back, guys. So right now I'm doing a live stream and I actually am distracted in my new office. So give me a second here. I literally have to move this plant out of the way because I'm going to look at it because my camera is back that way. So this is actually my second live stream and there's probably going to be some bumps in the road. So bear with me. Also, too, I've got a lot going on. And I'm transitioning from one office to the next. My practice is expanding. And so because of that, I'm transitioning. And so the transitional period is so hard when you're going through that, whether it's trying to deal with a loved one, trying to deal with the loss of someone, trying to deal with the holidays, trying to deal with income changes, you know, trying to deal with people coming in and out of your life, whatever that transition is, it's a hard one. And I feel like I've been through so many transitions in my life over the past, I'm going to say 11 years as a therapist, but practically all my life as a human. So I can definitely relate to the topic that we're going to be talking about tonight. And I actually started to do a live stream in 2020 and just not do another one now. But a lot of you were so wonderful and so sweet. And you sent me messages, emails, tweets, YouTube comments on my last live stream. And you can take a look at that. I'm going to put it down in the description box a little bit later tonight. But you guys were so sweet and, you know, just saying to me, you know, I'm sorry I missed it. I wish I could have been there. I wish, you know, I could have been able to join you. I certainly would have. So thank you guys for doing that. So I just figured, you know what, I'm going to do another live stream. You guys have asked me some awesome questions. So I want to go through them with my phone. We're going to do that. But before we jump into that, and just to give you guys some time to kind of warm up and sign on, I'm going to try to talk a little bit about re-experiencing trauma. You know, this is something that a lot of my clients are currently dealing with. A lot of the people who ask me for consultations, they're trying to deal with and grapple with and cope with. And so I think that this is a very important topic. Christmas, Thanksgiving, New Year's, I'm not sure why. And I'm not sure if it's the psychology of urgency. I'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later. But I'm not sure if it's that or if it's the psychology of Christmas and New Year's and Thanksgiving, or is it the psychology of who we are as humans, you know, that kind of causes us to get depressed around this time, causes us to really reflect on what we don't have, not so much what we do have, but more so what we don't have. This time of year also seems to trigger a lot of feelings of inadequacy, a lot of feelings of emptiness and withdrawal and isolation from the world. One of my kids that comes to my practice has been with me for 5 years, totally love her. She said to me the other day, she says, Miss Tamara, I don't know what it is, but I get the Scrooge syndrome every year. And she and I actually defined that. And the Scrooge syndrome, it's not a real thing, it's just our made up term, is, you know, kind of like this introversion that happens, right? You kind of go down into yourself and you kind of hide because things are just too painful. You also get irritable. You get depressed, you're low in mood, but then you also get stressed. And on top of getting stressed, you feel lost, kind of numb. You also may feel, you know, just a little bit chaotic on the inside. You may begin to re-experience trauma. And we're going to talk about that here in a second. You may even begin to question your life and its overall purpose in the world. And unfortunately, a lot of people do think of suicide when they are going through transitions or depression. And sometimes when they're re-experiencing their trauma, especially if it's childhood trauma. Research, however, suggests that the suicide rate is not that different during the holiday time than it is at any other time of the year. But I will say from personal and professional experience, I see depression and suicide being very, very connected and hitting people at the start of November and lasting until a little bit after New Year's. It's just the natural process of the mind and the heart and what it goes through at the end of the year. And I really think there's something to that. So, because a lot of people feel these things and they experience these things, I think it's important for me to focus on them. So let's jump into what re-experiencing trauma might look like for you and some of the symptoms and some of the ways to cope. I'm going to offer some self-help tools for you because I think it's essential to talk about the issue, but it's also even more important for you to know how to deal with it. So I'm going to give you some self-help tools. Now, I see 7 of you have tuned in. Thank you so much. And hello. Nikki, I'm so glad to see you. And I'm not quite sure. I think this is Patricia. Okay, I'm going to say something to you guys. I'm going to say, hi, ladies. And Nikki's like, hey, yay. And then I think am I pronouncing this right? Sade. Sade's like, hello. That's so awesome. Hello to you too, Sade. Oh my. Somebody else is like, hi, but I don't know how to pronounce it. So I'm just going to say COCACARLE. Hello there. Thanks for joining. Thanks so much, guys. I'm so glad to see you. So I don't get excited often. And when you hear me get excited, I'm excited. So thank you so much. Sade, like this thing. Oh, okay. Sade. Okay, got it. I got it. That's awesome. Okay, so that's so cool. I'm so glad to see you guys. Okay, so let me stay on topic here. And I know, Patricia, I see you there, but it says something like message restricted. I'm not quite sure what's going on there. Maybe you retracted your statement that you were going to say. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I don't know how to pronounce this. I'm thinking Nisi T. Hi there. Thanks for joining us. Okay, awesome. So glad to see you guys. So exciting to see you. So let me just go ahead and talk about re-experiencing trauma and what that looks like. And then I'll be answering your questions as I go along. Feel free to go ahead and submit a question for me. Tyler, thank you so much. Tyler D. Lou, I'm going to say. And I'm just going to say thanks so much. Hello. Okay. So let me just throw this in here because this is kind of funny. I used to be like a huge YouTube, like, let me just watch the live events because I think it's cool. And I would like find people on YouTube and I would do the live chat. And the person would be like, oh, hi. And they would be looking at this side of the screen, which is where all your comments are. And I would just be watching as the observer. And I was like, that is so distracting. And here I am doing it myself. So I apologize if I'm a little overexcited, but I'm glad to see you guys. Okay, so let's just talk about re-experiencing trauma and what that looks like. And then I have you guys over here on my screen, so I'll be answering questions and saying hello to you as we go along. So, so it's re-experiencing trauma. Oh, Nikki. Okay, I gotcha. Okay, gotcha. All right. So re-experiencing trauma is, and I'm going to give it a definition, it's the process by which you find yourself re-experiencing emotional, psychological, and physiological pain. So it's almost like you're experiencing the same trauma over again, but sometimes in a more intense fashion. And that re-experiencing of trauma may lead to flashbacks, nightmares, hypervigilance. I do know, let me pull this up. I see you, Patricia. Let me just pull up who it was that mentioned hypervigilance. I think it was Limelight06. You asked me the question of how do you deal with hypervigilance due to family during the holidays? And I also see you, Kimmy. I'm going to get to you guys, I promise. But Limelight asked me, what do you do about hypervigilance? And this is something that happens when you're re-experiencing trauma. And I think the best way to deal with hypervigilance is to, number one, journal your experience. You're not just writing down what's happening to you. You're writing down and recording what's going on emotionally, psychologically, and physiologically. And when you do that, you're doing two things. One thing, you're getting it off of your heart and mind. And two, you're creating a record for yourself or for your doctor or for your therapist so that you can say, here you go, doc, this is what's happening to me and how do I deal with this? So re-experiencing of hypervigilance can result in nightmares and flashbacks and night terrors and even sleep paralysis. And you might find yourself being a little jumpy around this time as well. All right, let me look at this. So Patricia says, my depression episodes only last for a few days, and I tend to neglect my personal hygiene and sleep more than I should. Oh, yeah, Patricia, I totally get you. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that, Patricia. That is the hallmark of depression. And I'm going to offer some tools on how to deal with that. Now, I also see Patricia. She says, I love how you carry yourself as a person. You are so kind, loving, and friendly. Thank you so much, Patricia. Oh, that's so sweet of you. Thanks so much, Patricia. I don't know how to do like emojis. Wait a minute. I am so lame. Hold on. I'm afraid if I try to do an emoji, I'm going to like cut the whole thing off and we won't have a live stream. That's how bad my luck has been lately. I think I did a smiley face. Okay. Whoop. Okay, hold on. This is a little bit distracting the way YouTube does this. Hello, I think you were trying to pronounce my name a little bit ago. My computer Wi-Fi started bugging. Join the club. Right before I got on live stream, my internet completely went down. I'm very upset with my Wi-Fi company, by the way. My Wi-Fi went down. My security system went down. And I'm like, no. And I was trying to pull it up on my data. But I'm here. But yeah, it was a mess. So Kimmy, join the club. It's pronounced Kimi. Correct me if I'm wrong. Kima or Kimi. So happy to join you all. Yeah, so happy to have you. How would you describe flashbacks? I feel like this is, let me go back and make sure I'm pronouncing your name right. It is Sade. Sade? Oh, Sade. I think I got it that time. Okay. How would you describe flashbacks? I feel like I have them, but sometimes I feel like I'm making nothing into something. When I journal, I write like a whole essay. That's so cute. I write like a whole essay when I journal. Me too. On Sundays, after a long, busy week and a week where I've had migraines, I've been stressed, I've been overwhelmed. I journal and I usually say to myself, okay, journal 2 pages, and my 2 pages multiply to like 6. So I totally get you. Basically, flashbacks are momentary or temporary reminder of a particular trauma. So let's say, for example, you have been emotionally and sexually abused by your father. Let's say that happened around holiday time. You might be walking through a mall. You might be trying to go to sleep at night. You might be, going through the radio and you stop on a Christmas song. And for that split second, you're going to get that memory of your dad and it's going to pop in and go out. Okay. It's a flash in and a flash out. That's how fast it is. It just, and then it comes back out again. And some people have it prolonged for maybe a good 1, 2, 3, 4 seconds, and then it's gone. And really, the way that I like to explain flashbacks is it's a sensory experience. So you may find yourself getting chills. You may find yourself really beginning to feel overwhelmed emotionally and psychologically. You may start to shake a little bit, right? You can also get flashbacks when you walk past something like a bakery or a perfume or fragrance. It's that memory or that reminder that pops in and it goes out, right? It pops in and goes out. And it can change your mood in a split second because you're re-experiencing the trauma. Now, when you journal, Sade, I want you to think about it this way. You don't want to journal a whole book to where like your hand is cramped and you're trying to like hurry up and end it. That's not journaling. Journaling is when you're able to allow your thoughts and your body to freely flow through the experience and write down what matters the most. And the way that I like to describe this, and you guys are so awesome. You're sending so many comments. I so love you guys. I'm going to get to them, I promise. So, the way that I want you to think of journaling is it's a freeing experience of the mind and of the heart. And you want to allow yourself to experience the process and not feel uptight. You want to almost write a letter to yourself. And you don't do that by feeling overwhelmed or having your hand cramped or being, pressured to get done in 2 pages. You just want to allow it to happen. Great question. Thank you so much for that. All right, let me go back to this. You guys are wonderful. I see all of your comments. Just got put on Adderall for ADHD now. I'm staying up even later. I've always had insomnia. Okay, so I'm going to say, thanks, Sade. Good statement. I think I misspelled this. S-A-D-E. Thanks, Sade. I'm sorry. Glad you mentioned this. So let me talk about Adderall really quickly before I go to the rest of your awesome comments. Adderall is a stimulant, okay? And I want you to think of all ADHD medications as a stimulant because that's what they are. They stimulate your central nervous system, right? They get you in that gas pedal mode. I don't know if you guys remember me talking about this in some of my videos. The gas pedal mode is when your heart rate is increased, your energy is up, right? Your mind is racing. You're like running a marathon. You're ready to go. You're just like, go. Adderall does that to you. And so does Ritalin, and so does Concerta, and so does all the other ADHD medications. So what you want to keep in mind are 2 things with ADHD medications. One is ask your doctor if the time of day that you're taking a medication is impacting your sleep. Is the time of day that I'm taking the medication impacting my sleep? The other thing that you want to ask is, do I have bipolar disorder? Because if you have bipolar disorder, ADHD medication can bring on a manic episode and it can interfere with sleep. It can interfere with your ability to stay calm. And so it's really important to ask your doctor those 2 things. Is the time of day that I'm taking my ADHD medication impacting me? Or do I have bipolar disorder that's not being diagnosed or recognized? And am I having a manic episode? So that's something to kind of think about. All right. Great statement. I'm glad you brought that up. I'm going to say, yep, that happens for the nightmare for me. Okay. This is Nikki. She says flashbacks, sometimes jumpy. So I'm affording the Thanksgiving with my biological family, but still doing Thanksgiving. Okay, I understand what you mean. So Nikki, you're not leaving the situation. You're going to try to engage in the holiday, and I think that's good for you emotionally and psychologically. You may kind of feel down on yourself and a little bit discouraged if you were to isolate and withdraw and just say the heck with Thanksgiving. So I'm glad you're sticking it out. I think that's the best way to do that. Okay, so here's Beth. Hi, Beth. Glad to see you here. Let me just make sure that I got everybody's comment. That is so me writing. I'm not sure I understand that one. Beth, I think you're referring to the journaling. Yeah, that's me too. Patricia says, Tamara, can you do a video about continued grief and coping skills you can develop to overcome it? Absolutely. I will be talking about that. If not next week, then definitely in December. So stick around for that. Great topic, Patricia. Nikki says, she says, I like writing and working out. Yeah, me too. I think they're both freeing experiences for us emotionally. For me, it's like busting out of something that's just holding me and making me confined, So I'm with you on that. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. That's so sweet of you. I just can't pronounce your screen name. I think it's LJRME. Thank you so much for being here. She or he says, hi, Tamara, could you say how to find a trauma therapist? Love your channel. And I'm going to say, LJR me. So I'm so bad at typing and doing this. Absolutely. Thank you for being here and for being a subscriber. Okay, so here's how you might want to find a therapist. Yeah, I see what you're saying, Sade. Yep. You said it's like I tried to hurry up before I lose my thought. Yeah. Same here. You might find it easier, before I address the last person that just sent a message, you might find it easier, Sade, to use your phone and audio record your journal. That might be helpful. If I can find an app, I'll do that, and I'll put that in the description box for you. That might be easier. Okay, so now back to, I'm going to say LJR me, the one who said, love your channel. Can you suggest a trauma therapist? Absolutely. I don't know a lot of trauma therapists personally. Honestly, it really is a handful of internationally certified trauma therapists internationally. So it's really, really limited. We're a small specialty, but what I suggest is going to www.psychologytoday.com, and I don't have paper to write it down. I'm sorry, psychologytoday.com, and go ahead to that website, put in your zip code over in the Find a Therapist box. And I think you can add some more details in there, like trauma therapy or trauma specialty, and you should be able to find somebody in your area. So that's the best way I know how to do it. You can also go to goodtherapy.org, and you can also put your zip code in there and find a therapist that specializes in trauma therapy. So great question. Thank you for that. I'm sure somebody else had that same question. Okay, so Beth says, let's continue on because you guys have awesome feedback. Beth says, my first flashback was on a train journey, feeling terrified, and I realized I was going through villages of trauma. Yeah, memories. Absolutely, Beth. Sometimes stimulation can make you vulnerable enough to feel like you're re-experiencing your trauma. Sometimes driving in a car or being on a train or flying in the air or anything that involves movement or some kind of physical stimulation, that can definitely bring back some flashbacks and cause you to re-experience your trauma. I know I forgot to mention the last 4 or 5 things that happens when you're re-experiencing trauma. So let me go back to that, and then I'm going to go back to comments. And so let's see here. Okay, so the next thing that happens when you're having a flashback, I think I mentioned flashbacks, nightmares, hypervigilance when you're re-experiencing trauma. The next would be anxiety and irritability, because you're just jumpy. Withdrawal, that's another one. You kind of withdraw and hide, you isolate. Sleep paralysis. So that's kind of like a form of feeling almost stuck and trapped while you're trying to fall asleep or you're waking up from a sleep. And it can really feel pretty terrifying. It can actually be traumatizing in and of itself. I'm going to self-disclose here just a little bit. I myself suffered from sleep paralysis for a lot of years. And it got so bad that my mom, even though I was a grown adult, I was like 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, my mom would sit in my bedroom while I would fall asleep at night. That's how terrified I was. My sleep paralysis was pretty bad. It was, I would have a panic attack while I was asleep. I would wake up and sit up hot and overwhelmed. And I thought I was somewhere that I wasn't. And it took me a while to come around. And, it felt like something was sitting on my chest or in my room all around me. And I just didn't know what to believe. I started to kind of get a little comical with it. I'm like, is there some voodoo going on next door with the neighbors? I know they don't like me, but man, but my mom was like, okay, Tamara, I'm going to sit in your room because I hate to see you this upset. And, it would throw my whole day off. So you can actually, re-experience trauma to a point of having sleep paralysis, or sleep paralysis in and of itself can be traumatizing. So those are things that can happen when you're re-experiencing your trauma. The other thing is physical ailments. Okay. So we're talking like your shoulders hurt, right? Your neck hurts, you feel tension, your back, maybe your whole body aches, almost like a fibromyalgia, like everything aches and it just feels tingly. So those are all the symptoms that you can have when you're re-experiencing trauma. And, I do want to throw in here as well something very serious, and that's self-injurious behaviors, cutting, burning yourself, all of that, hurting yourself, all of those things. The other thing would be suicidal thoughts. So it could be passive or direct suicidal thoughts. I'm going to kill myself tomorrow at 9 a.m. with a gun. I mean, you're serious if you think that far. And then passive suicidal thoughts can occur. So it's kind of like this passing, almost like a cloud. It's like this passing thought of, wonder what life would be like if I weren't around. Or, here's another suicidal thought. I wonder if I would feel a lot less stressed if I just weren't here. All of those things can happen when you're re-experiencing trauma. Okay, let me go back to you guys because you guys are wonderful. Nikki says the psychology today that Psychology today is how I found my therapist. That's awesome, Nikki. If I'm understanding you, that's awesome. Thomas, thanks so much for coming. Okay, I'm going to say, nice to see you. Awesome. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being on. Thank you so much, Sade. She says, or she or he says, you're awesome. Are you out of Indiana? Indianapolis or Indiana, PA? Because I used to work in Indiana, PA. And then I left because I was so far out in the country in Indiana, Pennsylvania, that I swear to you, I would drive long, winding, dark roads without lights or humans. And there were times I would see deers. It was just me and the deers. So I no longer work out there because I need some civility. But I think you mean Indianapolis. I'm going to take that guess and say that's what you mean. Let me keep going here. Beth says, whoop. Wow, you guys are awesome. I see so many of you. I am coming, I swear. Okay, Beth says, is there anything you can suggest for somebody who is going to be alone with no options? Oh, yeah, Beth. Okay, so here's what I usually suggest. I think, I've experienced over my lifetime a variety of things. So I've experienced being alone on Christmas with my mom and my younger and my older brother. I experienced being alone on Christmas with my grandmother, my mom, my brothers. And I've also experienced the death of a loved one around Christmas time, actually a few days before Christmas. And then I also experienced another death so many years later, so many days before Christmas. So my experience has been, loss. And then I've had Christmases where, everything feels so right. And then I've had Christmases where everything felt so wrong. So what I usually suggest is doing something that you want to do on Christmas, on Thanksgiving, making sure that you're keeping yourself active and engaged and healthy, to avoid completely sinking. I suggest that you start to build yourself up on the inside. And what I mean by that is taking vitamin supplements. So one vitamin supplement that I take that's really helpful, and you can get it online at your Target.com, would be Rainbow Light. That's Rainbow Light. And you could get a prenatal one, and you can get a women's multivitamin. Fantastic vitamin. If you don't, want to go to your doctor and say, look, can you prescribe me a good vitamin? Then try Rainbow Light. They're awesome. They're organic. They have all kind of, different herbs and vegetables and all kind of fruits and everything in there. And they're not expensive. They're like $15.99 a bottle. So I would give that a shot. But I also suggest doing something like, not sitting still on Christmas Day, right? Getting out, volunteering, talking with people, going to a mall. I used to see a senior citizen. She was about 85 years old, and I totally loved her. She was like my grandmother, but she would come to sessions, and the roles were kind of switched because I would sit there as a therapist, but I would also sit there like the granddaughter that's like under her grandmother, listening to her life story. But one thing she used to do on Christmas before she passed away was she would go to the mall and she would walk around, and then she would sit down just to hear the children playing, just to hear the children running around in the mall, just to hear the train and see Santa Claus down, in the mall, like when you're high up and you look down. And she would do that to kind of cope with being alone during the holidays. And I think that's a really nice way to kind of cope. So I guess what I'm trying to say in a nutshell is build yourself up from the inside with supplements and vitamins and holistic health, and then try to get out, volunteer, go to the mall, do something to kind of keep yourself busy. Great question, Beth. Thank you for that. Okay, let's keep moving here. Oh, okay. Thank you, Nikki. I see what you just said. You said I have it in the chat for you, Tamara. Thank you, Nikki. I appreciate it. I am 35, so I have a really hard time remembering things, but I will figure out, Nikki, what we're talking about here. I will, I promise. But thank you for whatever you left in the description box. That's so bad, or in the chat. Say what I also do for journaling. Okay, this is Beth trying to help say it out. She says, what I also do for journaling is to write a WhatsApp message and send it to myself. This works for me like a bullet journal. Love it, love it, love it. Thank you so much, Beth. That's a great tip. I love that. Sage says, LOL, I just started doing that. Thanks. It's just funny because I just had a breakdown doing that and just don't understand why it's just now coming out. Like, why am I feeling like this? I totally get it. I do. I'm not sure. Say that's where you kind of have to, figure out what's going on with you. Is it emotional? Is it psychological? Do I need to build myself up with nutrition? Is it the time of year? Is it seasonal affective? Like, what's going on? Is it seasonal affective disorder? What's going on with the situation and what's going on with me? And I think too, it's really important to have a therapist during this time of year. If you can find somebody who's loving and caring and they just, you can latch on to them, I think that's a really good thing to have during this time. Isabelle Shelley, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. You say, thanks for the resources. Hard to find resources for hardcore child abuse. Yes, absolutely. You're welcome. And I love how you guys are helping yourself out. I love how you guys are helping each other out. I'm sorry. I think that's beautiful. Okay, so Kaka Carly, I think I have that right, says, if I have symptoms related to severe trauma and depression, at what point should I seek medication for sleep and anxiety? That's an excellent question. I think it's important to go for medication when you realize that you can't do three important things. One, and these don't have to go together. They can be separate. One is I can't sleep at night. You need your sleep to function. If you're not sleeping, or if you're sleeping and you're waking up throughout the night, or you're sleeping and you're waking up extremely exhausted, you're not resting. So that's one. Number two is if you can't function in your daily life, you're forgetting things, your memory is poor, you're dizzy and dazed all the time, you just feel numb, you're just going through the motions, you're tired, you're blinking a lot like I do sometimes. You just can't find your place because you're just that exhausted. So that's number two. And number three is, not being able to be yourself and function in relation to other people. So what I mean by that is when I'm extremely exhausted, my personality is way off. Like I'm dead. I feel drunk. I feel high. I feel like I don't feel like myself. And I think my clients notice it too. Sometimes, hopefully they don't, but I think they do. And sometimes they're just looking at me like, oh, you poor thing. So if those three things are happening to you, then I would suggest medication. Now, when you go in for medication, you want to ask your doctor, whether that's your general doctor or your psychiatrist or your therapist, you want to ask them to please give you a medication that's not going to make you a zombie. And you want a medication that they're going to start at a low dose and then slowly build to a higher dose. So for example, people who are diagnosed with depression or seasonal affective disorder, which is like wintertime depression, a doctor will typically start you off on Prozac or fluoxetine or something like Wellbutrin, or there's another antidepressant medication, Wellbutrin, Prozac, Zoloft is the other one I'm thinking about. a doctor who knows what they're doing, they're going to start you off on 10 to 20 milligrams so that your body can build up its tolerance to the medication so you don't have side effects and all of that stuff, or so that you don't start having heart palpitations or high blood pressure. So they start you off between 10 to 20 milligrams. And then over time, usually a few weeks to a month, they see you again. They ask you how it's going. If you don't feel a difference, then they take it up to about 50 or sometimes 150. It just depends on the milligrams for the medication. So if you're going to go in for meds, I suggest two things. Tell them or ask them, can you not give me a medication that will make me a zombie? And number two, can you please take me up on the medication slowly so I don't have side effects or personality changes and I can monitor what's happening to me. I also think, as just a side tip, that it's good to have a loved one around who can kind of monitor you. My mom used to do that for me. Years ago, when I was in college, I had severe migraines. It actually hospitalized me twice. And I had to be put on a medication for neurological conditions. They didn't know what was going on. The doctors thought and my neurologist thought I was having a stroke one time. Then another time they thought I had epilepsy. So they put me on Topamax. I mean, it was a crazy journey for me in college. But my mom was very good because she had like this eye, for me. And she watched me like a hawk, you know what I mean? And she told me, I don't like this medication. You're losing too much weight. You're too thin. And you're irritable. Your behavior is changing. So if you can have somebody monitor you, that's the best way to go. All right. So we're going to keep moving here because you guys are so awesome that you keep sending things. Sage says, oh, geez, whoops. Hold on, guys, bear with me. I'm getting lost in all of this. Sade says, I was molested when I was like 10, but I put that behind me. Good for you. That's good. It was my cousin. Oh, my Lord. My mom's nephew who used to babysit my sister and I. He only touched me, though. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry to hear that, Sade. And that's where I think a lot of people get stuck during the holiday. How do you deal with a family when you know that there's dirt in the family? When somebody has done something to you in the family, how do you push that to the side to deal with that and cope with that? Like, how does that work, So I'm really glad you were able to put that behind you, Sade, and keep moving forward. That's really all you can do. It reminds me of the topic we did on forgiveness a couple weeks ago. So thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that. That was pretty brave of you. You were being vulnerable there. Patricia says, Tamara, you have a beautiful office space. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. My mom actually helped me decorate my office, and there's a lot more that needs to be done. So this is just the secretary station. Because I am looking to hire a secretary and 2 other clinicians. Right now, I'm solo, and I have like staff in the background doing things for me, like billing and all of that. But as I move along here and as I build and grow, I'm looking for other staff. So thank you for that. My mom and I and my brothers, we put a lot of work into the office. So thank you, Patricia. All right, the next one is... Okay, I said, Thomas, nice to see you. Sade says, yay, I'm in Indiana, South Bend, but we'll be relocating. I just want to know because I will definitely get you as counselor. Oh, that's so awesome. All right, so I'm going to say thank you, Sade. So cool. That is so awesome. Small world, because I really didn't think that, like, anybody that I talked to on YouTube, I really didn't think that you guys were that close, and some of you are. Like, somebody came into my office someday, and they were like, so hi, Tamara Hill from YouTube. And I'm like, okay, this is getting creepy. But she was a sweet elderly woman, and I think it's so cool that YouTube can connect us. It affords us this opportunity, and then you can actually come see me. I think it's so cool. So that's awesome, Sade. Okay, so Patricia says, sleep paralysis is the devil. Yes, I agree, Patricia. 100%, I agree. Sleep paralysis is the devil. Some people can see demons around with a home. So very true. Very true. And I agree with that. I'm going to throw this out here, and I may get attacked for this, but this is kind of like the spiritual existential side of sleep paralysis. A lot of people do believe that. A lot of people do believe that devils or demons or spirits are trying to attack them. And because they can't quite do it while the person's awake, they do it while the person is asleep. The Christian view of sleep paralysis is that, the devil is attacking you and trying to make you afraid and trying to make you submit to his power. And so there's a philosophical, existential, Christian point of view, religious point of view of that. And I can't help but believe some of it. I really do hate, though, when science tries to make sense out of things that just doesn't make sense, and tries to, attack a situation from just a scientific view. The scientific view of sleep paralysis is that, your brain is trying to make sense out of your daily life, that your brain is really trying to reorganize itself right before you go to sleep and right when you wake up. And, rapid eye movement or REM sleep is going on, and coming right out of that is a weird experience. Like, there's a lot of scientific theories. And while I appreciate that, I also think we have to kind of understand things from a case-by-case basis. We really do. Okay. All right. Let me keep going, guys. Alex says, in terms of children using phones and people saying stuff online, but kids using phones for YouTube, would you say they are more good or more bad? Okay. Let me see about this, Alex. I'm going to say, thank you, Alex. Good question. So let me see here. In terms of children using phones and people saying stuff online, but kids using phones for YouTube, would you say they are more good or more bad? If I'm understanding that question correctly, Alex, I'm going to say that I think phones need to be restricted for kids. There's this whole thing going on YouTube relating to COPPA, if I'm saying that correctly. And basically, it's the government, and they're trying to put restrictions on YouTube. And I haven't done a video on this because it just doesn't really concern my channel, although at the same time it does. But I'm more of a digital psychotherapy, so I didn't bring it up. But I'm glad you kind of posed this question because it gives me an opportunity to talk about it. COPPA, C-O-P-A, is really the government trying to control and restrict YouTube. And every time I upload a video, or just like today, every time I do something live, what happens is I have to click a check mark on my YouTube screen that says this content is for children and this content is not for children. And then it goes on to make me answer a couple of other questions to kind of screen me and make sure that my content is appropriate for kids. Now, there's a side of me that understands that, and there's another side of me that's like, come on, guys, but the side where I do understand that is that a lot of my clients, especially my younger kids, they like to check me out on YouTube. And I didn't think they would do that because, they see me for therapy every week, and we spend an hour together playing Uno and playing games and playing Jenga and, talking about all their problems. But they come to my YouTube. And then next thing I see, hi, Miss Tamara. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't know who that is. And then I'm delete. Or sometime I will text the child and I'll be like, hey, you can't really say that on my YouTube. You're identifying yourself. And I'll say delete, but I love you. But thank you for not doing that again. So I totally get COPPA. I get YouTube. So to get back to your question, Alex, I will say that I think cell phones need to be restricted. I think parents need to be responsible, and they also need to monitor the YouTube and the cell phones to make sure that everybody is following along and doing what they need to do. All right. So thank you so much, Alex. That was a great question. Patricia says, my grandmother would scream really loud every time she was asleep because she was sexually assaulted on a train when she was a teenager. Oh my God, Patricia, that's awful. I'm sorry to hear that. It sounds to me as if she was kind of experiencing flashbacks and re-experiencing PTSD in her sleep. And that can definitely happen. And I think the only remedy for that would be doing things when you're awake, like therapy and journaling and really doing some spiritual introspection, keeping yourself relaxed through the day, and maybe even considering an anti-anxiety medication, to kind of help you sleep at night, something like Buspar or something like Xanax or Ativan that you can take before bedtime to slow down those kind of things. So I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you, Patricia. Alex says, my parents say they are the cause to depression. Well, I mean, it really just depends on what they mean, Alex. Do they mean they're the cause to depression because they've done some things they wish they hadn't have done? Or are they saying that they're the cause of depression because of genes? Because if that's the case, then there's two things at play here. Well, actually, there's two things at play here. One is genes and the other is environment. So, depression is a combination of those two things, genes and environment. Biology, do you have that genetic predisposition to be depressed, have low motivation, to really isolate and withdraw yourself? And do you have that environment that's pressuring and invalidating and judgmental and, cold and callous and not caring? And if so, then those are the two things that have caused your depression, genes and environment, and they've collided. And now here you go with depression. So your parents are probably right when they say that. Patricia says, can playing with animals like a cat help manage symptoms of depression? I think that's a good question. And oh my God, you guys are so awesome. I see so many questions at once popping up here. Okay, Patricia, I'm going to answer your question first. Can playing with animals like a cat help manage symptoms of depression? 100%. Yes. But I also think, there's a little bit of no in there as well, because you can get a cat and you can get a dog and your depression not even lift at all. So I think it really just depends on what's happening. I think a pet should be a part of a major treatment plan, Patricia. So, if you have medication and therapy and you're eating right, you're taking vitamin supplements, and then you get a cat, fantastic. But if you're feeling depressed and suicidal and overwhelmed and you just buy a cat, who's to say that's really going to help? We do have those of us who are licensed and internationally certified, such as myself. We do have the ability to write you a prescription for a therapy dog or cat. I have had some clients in the past ask me for them, and I'm not 100% on board with that, especially if that's the only way that you feel that you can get a pet. The only thing is, I'm not on board with that if that's the only thing that you think that's going to help your depression, because I want your depression to get better. So I think it should be a part of a treatment plan, an overall treatment plan. So medication, therapy, a cat, vitamin therapy, holistic health, exercise, right? All that stuff. So it should be a part of a big treatment plan. I also see that you also put in here, Patricia, what inspired you to become a therapist? That's awesome. Carly says, thank you. You're very welcome. So Patricia says, what inspired you to become a therapist? Well, let's see here. My cousin is a judge in the state of Georgia. And she works with a lot of criminal cases. So she does all the hard judgments on crime. My mom was a registered nurse, and she went to business school, and she did a lot of stuff with senior citizen facilities and hospitals and that. And so I went to school for maybe a good 4 years before my mom decided, you know what, I want control over her education. So she began to homeschool me. And throughout her homeschooling of me, she introduced me to her medical books. She had books this high. That's how engulfed in her medical field that she was. And so, in addition to influences surrounding me, in addition to my mom, I got to a place where I said, I want to go to school for psychology. I had my cousin and my mom to look at when I turned 18. And my mom was a nurse, and during my homeschool education, she had exposed me to medical books for a long time. So with that, and then my cousin going to law school, because we're about 3 years apart, I went to college and I studied psychology, but then I also got into forensic psychology and forensic science, and I earned a degree in both of those fields. And so then after that, I went to work in a bunch of labs, and I used to wear the lab coats and all of that kind of stuff. And I used to think, I want a more spiritual experience. I need a more spiritual, existential experience. And honestly, if I'm honest with you guys, I felt God calling me to the field of psychology. And I liked stopping on the street to talk to people. I liked talking to children in grocery stores, talking to them when I would pass them. I liked being on platforms like YouTube and having conversations. I have a blog that I've run for the past 7 years. It's blogs.psychcentral.com. I think it's it's not slash. I forget what that thing is called. It's that thing, guys, that goes this way. Okay, so it's that sign, and then it's caregivers. I'll try to put it in the description box below for you. But I used to have a lot of people talking to me through my blog. And so I got to a place where I said, okay, I think God's calling me to be a therapist. And so here I am. Long story short. So thank you so much, Patricia, for that. I believe every single day that I do counseling that it's calling. And I humbly walk in that calling because I think it's something that I need to be doing. I wouldn't want to die and not follow that calling. So thank you for that. I like that question. Okay. Let's see here. Beth says, you're incredible, Tamara. I've been here for 15, 20 minutes, and I've got plans to volunteer for the Homeless Christmas Dinner Center and the Rainbow Vitamins as long as they are okay with Effexor. Yes, Beth, thank you so much. That's so touching. And yes, you can take Rainbow Light Vitamins with Effexor. And if you're a little bit concerned about any reactions or any crossing of the chemicals, go ahead and contact your pharmacy and just ask. Or you can go to, let me pull it up on my phone here because I think it might be better to see it this way. Drugs website. So here it is. If you can, oh God, I don't think you can see it. You can't see it. Well, I'll put it in the description box for you. It's drugs.com. And when you go to drugs.com, you want to click on interactions. Okay, it's going to be on the front page. Click on drug interaction checker. Enter your drug name. And Beth, you're going to enter Effexor. And then it's going to have you add whatever you're concerned about. And you can literally look up. In the matter of seconds, it will take you to call the pharmacy. You can look up interaction. All right. And I encourage that for all of you who are considering vitamins and all of that. All right. And I'm very proud of you, Beth, for volunteering. I think that's fantastic. I really hope it works. Let me know how that goes. Okay. Alex says, do therapists, counselors always actually care or sometimes fake caring? That is such a curveball of a question, Alex, but I have to say, it's a question I'm kind of glad you asked because I get a chance to answer that. I think there's two kinds of therapists, the ones who care and the ones who don't. And the ones who don't are the ones who don't really take their position seriously, sit back and let you do all the talking. And at the end of the session, look at their watch and say, nice to see you. I'll see you next week. And I think those are the kind of therapists that are either burned out or they don't care. We do a lot in our field and we take on a lot. So I'm talking like back to back. So 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 45 clients last week alone. And all of them have different issues. Some of them are depressed. Some of them are suicidal. Some of them are dealing with stress. Some of them are dealing with loss. Some are dealing with trauma. Some are in legal challenges. Some have been sexually abused. Some are dealing with family drama. Some are dealing with childhood trauma. Like it goes and it goes and it goes. And thank God for my lovely mom, because she's the one who says, Tamara, take your vitamins. Tamara, time to go to bed. Tamara, did you take your vitamins? Tamara, did you eat? Then she'll say stuff to try to make me gain weight, guys. Like, did you eat some cake? Did you eat some ice cream? Did you have some pizza? But really, she's trying to make sure that I'm okay, because I'm not the kind of therapist, and there are plenty of other therapists in the world. They're hard to find, but there's plenty of other therapists who care, and they're the ones who do not sit there and say, thank you for coming. See you next week. You know, so I think there are two kinds of therapists. Once again, those who care and those who do not. All right, guys, we're going to be wrapping up here in the next 6 minutes. And I want to try to get to all of you before we do. Great question, Alex. Thank you for that. Beth says, I've had the feeling of somebody stopping me from getting up as if they held my chest down. Yeah, apparently it's related to anxiety. Absolutely. It sounds like a panic attack. And it's not a van or some kind of other that. Xanax is another one. So thank you for that. Tess W says, hello. Hi, Tess. I'm going to put, hi, Tess. Thanks for coming. You guys are awesome. So it's about 25. Actually, it's about 30 of you here. So that's really cool. Tess says, Ms. Hill, I agree. Science doesn't study soul or spirit. It's strictly a study of the material world. It's like using a spoon to measure air. Wrong tool. So good. Thank you so much for saying that, Tess. I totally agree. I totally agree. I approach my counseling relationships with my clients from a spiritual, existential, religious perspective. I don't go around throwing around Christianity, but I do try to approach it from a spiritual perspective. And I don't go in with a client talking about cognitive behavior therapy and person-centered therapy. And I don't do that. I start with the spiritual stuff, and I start with trying to understand the flow of things and the emotions and the mental processes, and then I bring in the tools later. The way I used to describe it in graduate school was, the car is the spiritual existential side, and the tools within the car are the tools that we learn in school, the books, the worksheets, all that stuff. So you're right, Tess, it is. It's like using a spoon to measure the air. It's just the wrong tool. So thank you for saying that. I totally agree. Alex says, you're welcome. My parents hate my phone. I totally love that. Well, you know what? My mom does too. So let me tell you a funny story really quickly before we wrap up in the next 6 minutes. So I try to show my mom certain things on my phone. Like sometimes I'll take a picture of things, or I'll take a picture of the ceiling in my office, and I'll be like, Mom, we need to fix this. Or I'll be like, Mom, here's my phone. Can you look at this? And she'll be like, I don't want to touch your phone. And I'm like, what's wrong? And she's like, it is so germy. Do you know how many kids touch her phone? Do you take it in the bathroom with you? And she's seriously OCD, and she laughs every time I get ready to hand my phone, because she's gives me the same reaction, although for different reasons. But don't feel bad, you're not alone. Okay, so Thomas says, what's your view of sleep hypnosis? And Thomas says, I personally fall asleep listening to rain or ocean sounds. There are some great sites on YouTube. So true, Thomas. I agree. Let me pull this up on my cell phone real quick. If you go to your app store, Thomas, you can actually get an app called Calm. Let me see what happens if you might be able to see it now. Oh, you can. You can see it now. I turn the lighting down. So this is an app called Calm, and you can get it in your app store. And here's what happens. All you do is sign up, and you can literally plug your earphone at bedtime, and you can listen to this stuff. So here's ocean. Okay. Here's thunderstorm. Okay. Here's rain. Here's an ocean. There's nighttime. So you can literally program, just flip through and download it. Go ahead, go to your app store. It should be free for your phone. If you have a Samsung, Android, it's free. I don't know about iPhone. Go ahead and give that a shot, Thomas. You might really like that. And absolutely, I love YouTube. They have a lot of videos that's really cool. Thank you for mentioning that. I actually listen to the thunderstorm, because sometimes if I'm for example, if my grandmother spends the night at my house, she'll sleep on the floor, and she snores so loud. And if I don't want to hear that, I put my earphones on and I turn on thunder. I literally don't want to hear it. So I turn on thunder. I have to get up the next day and function. So I listen to thunderstorms. It works. It really does. Carly says, as a person experiencing delayed trauma and PTSD in a relationship, how can I ensure I don't overwhelm my significant other with my depression, anxiety, irritability? I like that. Thank you for that question. The one thing that I would suggest, and I want to get to some other tips before we wrap up, guys. The one thing that I would suggest for you is making sure that you have your time alone and he has his time alone. You guys may not be natural introverts, but I think it's important to take some time to just be all by yourself and allow him some time to be by himself. A good way to do that is you go upstairs and maybe do some stuff and he's downstairs, or you go for a jog or a run and he's at home, or let him go out in the weekend and hang out with his buds while you stay at home and do some laundry or relax or whatever. I think it's good to have your own separate paths to kind of help you both cope. The other thing that I think is important is that, you know, if your significant other is feeling overwhelmed, I think it's okay to go ahead and say, look, let's go to therapy together and let's get our own individual therapists. Okay. So that's a couple ways to kind of manage that situation. All right, let me keep going, guys. It's so late. I legit can't sleep. Yeah, I believe you, Alex. Oh, geez. I'm sorry to hear that. I would try melatonin. Try melatonin if you haven't already. And I would take it an hour before bed. And then I would take 1 to 2. right? And I would get the 3 or the 6 milligram and take it an hour before bed and kind of wind down. You can actually take melatonin and top it with some herbal tea, or take melatonin and match it or combine it with a hot shower. So you want to combine methods. I always tell my clients the best way to deal with coping with your challenges is to combine methods. All right, we're at 7:00. So I'm going to go through this. Beth says, hey, Thomas, I listen to sleep hypnosis because it helps me too, but I make sure the autoplay is switched off as the playlist can go off track. And I had a panic attack in my sleep. Absolutely. Absolutely. I forgot to answer your question, Thomas, about hypnosis. I'm not sure that I'm not quite sure if I'm well-rounded enough to answer any questions about hypnosis. I think I may have answered a question of yours like that in the past. I think it's controversial. And until I see it really work, I'm not really sure hypnosis works. Until I see it, I won't believe it. I think that's just kind of where I'm at. BB Rodriguez says, I love your work, doctor. Thank you so much, BB. I'm going to put thank you so much. BB, glad to have you on tonight. I really am glad to have you all on tonight. Okay. And then we have Joy's World. How do you deal with the holidays when you can't get out of bed every day? Oh my God. I can totally relate to that, personally and professionally. Honestly, I think I may have said it earlier. I think the best way to deal with this is to build yourself up from the inside out. You need vitamins. You need an exercise routine. You need healthy eating. You need 3 important vitamins during the wintertime. 1 is B12, 2 is B6, and 3 is vitamin D. B12 and B6 are great for energy and blood flow, and for women who have menstrual cycles and are on birth control. And then vitamin D is really good for that vitamin D that you don't get with the sun during the winter. You have to build yourself up internally so that you can take the next step, you know? Other than that, honestly, that's a tough one. And I would need time to really kind of process that with you and then figure out what works best for you. But I think as a general suggestion, I would build yourself up from the inside out, and I would go baby steps, right? Baby steps. Get yourself out of bed little by little. And then on the holiday, do whatever you need to do to have a good holiday. Stay in bed all day, get out of bed for a couple of minutes, whatever you need to do, try it. I hope that answered your question, Joy. All right, we're going to wrap up here, guys, in a little bit. Beth says, I suggest the YouTube channel Meditation Vacation and his video called Fall Asleep Fast, but autoplay off. I love it. Thank you so much, Beth. Alex says, do you agree that everyone has anger issues? My friend said that everyone does, but I don't feel like it applies to everyone. I agree. I don't think everyone has anger issues. Can everyone, Alex, get angry? Yeah, I get angry, but does that mean that you have anger management issues? Absolutely not. So I don't necessarily agree with that. Beth says, thank you for that great advice, and I will do that. Thank you. You're welcome. Patricia says, I'm scared to take antidepressant medication because one of the symptoms are suicidal thoughts and actions. Let me just also throw this in here, Patricia. And I'm glad you brought that up before we wrap up. We're 3 minutes over time, but we'll wrap up in a little bit. Patricia, I think the thing to think about when you're thinking about antidepressant medication is that antidepressants work on people in different ways. And it also depends on what that antidepressant medication is. The suicide label that came out so many years ago, it was that warning label of be careful taking antidepressant medication because it has led to suicide. That was designed by the Food and Drug Administration to give practitioners a warning that suicidal thoughts could be a symptom. The key word there is could. Do antidepressant medications cause suicidal thoughts? For some people. Do they not cause suicidal thoughts? For some people. So I think the best way to look at this, Patricia, is how can I get on the best antidepressant medication without having suicidal thoughts? And also, how can I find the right doctor who can give me the right cocktail medication, meaning a series of medications that work? And you also want to do, like I suggested earlier, Patricia, which is slowly go up. So 10 milligrams, 20 milligrams, 40 milligrams. You want to slowly go up so your body will build a tolerance and you won't have any kind of adverse side effects like suicidal thoughts. I hope that helped. Okay, so Tyler says, so I'm from the Netherlands. Hi, Tyler. Welcome. And am not sure if the terminology is the same, but could you say something about the difference between EMDR right and EMDR left? That's a good question. I'm not sure I have the answer for that. So let me look at this, guys, for a second. So the terminology is the same. EMDR basically is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And really what happens is it's a doctor who's qualified really putting something in front of your face and just making you like follow it, and it's really like a form of hypnosis. To me, it's like modern day hypnosis. I'm not that well-rounded on EMDR. I apologize for that, guys. But it is a part of trauma therapy. Research is mixed. It's really hard to determine if it works or not. So I think it's something that you might want to just learn a little bit more about, guys, if you're not familiar with it. But for me, it's like a form of hypnosis. And the whole process of EMDR is to kind of get your brain to re-experience a trauma in a safe environment so that you can overcome it. It's kind of like exposure therapy. If I throw you in the lion's den, you won't be afraid of lions anymore. That's really the whole idea behind that. Thank you for that. Oh my goodness, Jaquise or Jaquise, I'm so sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, says, greetings, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Hero, for responding to my question. I'm going to say you're so welcome. You're so welcome. Thank you for coming. I don't know what happened, guys, and I hope I'm still live stream. It looks like I'm good, but on my chat, it says something like unable to connect. Please try again later. So what we're going to do, guys, you guys were fantastic tonight. I want to thank you so much for being with me in this live chat. It was fantastic. You guys just had so many wonderful questions. Just know that we're going to do this again. My next live chat will be in February of 2020, and we're going to talk about some new things. So if you have some suggestions for me, let me know. If you also have other questions you want me to answer that you weren't able to get answered, on our live chat tonight, just go ahead and post that in the comments section below. Thank you so much once again. Being with me today, and happy holidays. I know this is going to be a tough holiday for some of you. It's kind of bittersweet for me and my family. But just know that, we're going to get through this together. And I love the channel and how you guys validate and support each other. So I do hope that that's something that you can hold on to as you try to get through Thanksgiving. So happy holidays, happy Thanksgiving, and I'll see you guys on Monday with a brand new video. Bye.